Have you ever wanted to play a role-playing game on your own, but I've been kind of hard-pressed because it's hard to be your own game master? Or else, have you ever wanted to play a role-playing game, but with everyone being a player, instead of having, instead of one of your players having to sacrifice himself and be the game master? Well, if you've answered yes to any of those questions, or if you want to spice up your other RPGs, play post-by-post RPGs online, or get writing inspiration, then CRGE might be exactly what you're looking for. Welcome back everyone to my channel. Today I'm talking about the Conjectural Role-Playing Game Master emulator. It's something I rediscovered recently and I just thought it's so good I had to share it with you guys. So this is a system created by Zach Best. Judging by the rule set, is a brilliant guy. That apparently passed away last year or maybe the year before. The way he describes this system, he says, CRGE is used to answer binary questions that a player would normally ask a game master. CRGE answers these questions, sometimes with a twist. CRGE ultimately leads towards the unexpected, and I can vouch for that. Alright. So as I said, first I'm gonna explain to you the basics of CRGE, and then I'm gonna show you how it plays out concretely by going through the tutorial at the latter half of this video. CRGE, I just rediscovered it. I remember reading the rules maybe like 3 or 4 years ago and being a little bit confused about it. But now going back to it and playing a little bit on my own, I'm really coming around to understanding just how awesome this is. So basically, the hallmark of this system is what is called the Loom of Fate. It's like this table where you can either have yes or no answers. You know, you roll dice and it either says yes or no to your question. And there's twists put into it. You can have yes and, yes but, yes and unexpectedly, and the inverse, no and, no but, and no and unexpectedly. Let me give you an example to make it a little bit clearer. Let's say you have a situation, you have a character, he wants to sneak by a fortress. Say like, is the fortress guarded? And then you would roll the dice, yes or no. And depending on the answer you get, you make it work in your story. So if the fortress is guarded, then cool, that's pretty much what you expect. And then you might do your sneak roll if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, or you might use the game mechanics of the RPG you're using. But you can also use it without an RPG system. So basically, this system makes you... it determines the facts of your adventure, right? You say, okay, is this so? Is this not so? There's kind of a 50-50 chance for every question you ask. And what helps you build out a world from that is you have to use your imagination to make sense of the answers the Loom of Fate is giving you. All right. I'm sure this is a little bit abstract still, You'll see with an example later on, it's all gonna come clear. It was confusing and weird for me up until I tried it, and it's just that awesome. I know I'm gonna use it in my D&D games, and I might be able to play some role-playing games on my own and kind of write stories that way. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, from what I've seen, CRGE, you can play RPGs solo. You can play any RPG, allegedly. Of course, I didn't try it with every RPG. I've just tried it with Dungeons and Dragons for the moment. Well, and you can use it without a system. You can integrate it in your GMing. So one of the examples he gives is how you could just be playing Dungeons and Dragons, and if there's something you want to leave to fate, basically to random chance, then you can turn to the Loom of Fate. You can play multiplayer, where people each, they'll ask questions and they'll be the one to answer that question, and then it goes to the next person, and you sort of build this world together. That's something I really want to try. Also, something I find neat that might, be a big plus for some of you guys out there. You can use it to play post by post role-playing on like internet forums and the like. So it's really versatile. Now, I'm just gonna go through a little bit of the mechanics, but really from a bird's eye view, just a summary. So you'll still have to buy the PDF if you want to get the full thing, because, I want Zach Best's family to get a little bit of money from it. I don't want to just give it out to everyone. And by the way, I got my copy on Drive-Thru RPG. I'm not sponsored, but that's where I found it. So a lot of CRGE is based on the 3-act structure. I don't know if you know what that is. It's kind of a basic framework for telling stories. It's kind of the default dramatic story, right? You have the exposition, that's Act 1, and then you have the rising action, that's Act 2, and then you have like the climax. That's Act 3, basically. So you have that structure in the Loom itself. The game will be more unexpected, whether you are in the 2 knowledge, 2 conflict, and 2 endings. This all ties into their other big system, which is also based on the 3-act structure. They call it the Vignette Framework. Exposition, rising action, and climax. And you have an optional epilogue. So let me pull back so you can understand what that all means, because I'm pretty sure that's gobbledygook if you haven't read through all of it just yet. The game is broken into role-playing scenes. That's what they call it, scenes. So in the Vignette Framework, the exposition, that'll be 1 scene, or maybe more than 1. And then the rising action, that'll be a scene or 2 or more. And same thing with the climax, 1 scene. So if you're in the exposition scene, you'll probably use the 2 knowledge on the Loom of Fate. And if you're in the rising action, you'll probably use the 2 conflict. And if you're in the climax, you'll probably use the 2 endings. What the Vignette Framework is, it's basically something you keep in mind. So the result of your scene fits into this larger dramatic framework. And this ties into the last little mechanic that I'll present to you. And now I've covered everything, but only in summary. They call it the threads, which are basically story goals or storylines, or basically anything you want to explore in your game. So in their tutorial, they have the example of being burglarized. Okay, so if someone steals from you, you probably have two story threads that you can explore. The first one is who did it? Who was the thief? And the second one would be what did they steal, right? So those would be threads. And with each scene, you're exploring at least one thread, one main thread. Let's say your thread is my character wants a new car. So the first scene might be related to finding a car that your character wants. So you'd be in the exposition, rolling, asking questions. Okay, do I find this type of car, or does my character like sports cars, or does the city I'm in has a lot of rich people with I don't know, electric cars? You'd explore that thread of finding a car through the questions you ask. And depending on where you are in the vignette, then it would lead you to a different kind of dramatic momentum. Right? In the first scene, you're trying to find out about the car. But then by the end of that scene, you probably found the car that you want. Or you learn something that will lead you to finding that car, right? You'll have some new thread, some new narrative thrust from having played out that scene. So then, in the second scene, which could be in the rising action, or if you wanna, play it out over a longer time, then it could still be in the exposition. But let's say it's in the rising action. Right, you'd be preparing to get that car. So maybe your character would be gathering some money to get the car. Or maybe they're a thief and they would be staking out someone who has a nice car that you want to steal from. And third, that would probably be obtaining the car. So let's say you're a thief and you've prepared. Well, that would be the scene where you go in, you stalk, you try to open the car window, maybe someone is there, maybe the police comes in, and you have to get away from the police. There's a lot of dramatic potential in all of those threads. But depending on where you are in that vignette framework, whether you're in the exposition, the rising action, or the climax, or the epilogue, then it will influence what will happen in your scene, where you're supposed to take it. So that's it. That vignette framework, it's the superstructure over this game. But it's nothing complicated. It's just you putting yourself in the mindset of, okay, am I just going to find information? Am I going to prepare for action, or set the stage for a decisive thing? And then the climax, the thing happens, the bad guys arrive, the monster in the dungeon comes in and attacks you, the boss is there, anything you can imagine that is the peak of of the drama at that point. I tried CRGE a little bit in the last few days. I think this Vignette Framework is great at keeping the story moving instead of meandering like it might happen if we were just to ask questions to the Loom of Fate continually without having any kind of dramatic framework. But it's kind of hard to get across in words like that. I've done my best to try and explain to you, but I feel like now I gotta give you an example for you to figure it out. So now let me transition. We're gonna play the tutorial scenario, the CRGE book, and I think you're really gonna like it. Yeah, tell me how you like it, because I might be doing some CRG content if you do.